All right, our next guest is someone who doesn't just build businesses, she builds people, connection and community. She's a founder of Special to Me events, a passionate youth leader and a powerhouse behind countless initiatives bringing people together, whether she's running community programs, coordinating events or mentoring young people. A woman who leads with purpose, heart and an unshakable commitment to impact. She's not driven by ego or title, but by a vision, one where everyone feels seen, included and empowered to grow. Jacqui Musiello, welcome to the Founder Podcast.
Thank you. That's a very good introduction.
So you've worn many hats across community work, youth development, sports, events. Was there a particular moment that made you realise that this was your purpose?
I think probably when I started working at the YMCA in 2016. So I'd worked in businesses, building communities within the businesses, but then when I started working at the YMCA, that's probably when my community heart was probably brought to my attention by my leader at the time, and it just grew throughout my time at the YMCA because our focus was the community in many areas: the children, the elderly people, cancer survivors, our gymnastics program, our health and fitness program. So yeah, there was many communities within that community. So yeah, that's when my community heart started to shine through for me.
So you mentioned building community. What's that mean to you?
I think it's not just about the community as in your community, it's building a community within the organisation. So
Right.
It's going into a place of work or your friendship base or your kid's school or your kid's sporting organisation, and then just building a group of people that believe in the same things and have the same drive and passion. I guess that's probably what a community is, and that happens in all areas of your life.
And it literally creates culture as a consequence, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, culture's a big part of a community. It's like-minded people, and I think you have to build what that culture's going to be, and so then that culture trickles down to everybody in that community.
Love it, because it's something that's very much missing in society, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I find that, and that's why I love being part of building communities and being part of communities, is just going back to those foundations, I guess, of what tends to be missing a little bit in society today.
Because it's almost, you go back in time, it's tribal, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess my community heart comes from my parents, because when I was younger, they were heavily involved in the local football club. Mum was secretary, Dad was treasurer, and every weekend we'd be at the games and in the canteen making steak sandwiches, and we'd go to school during the week, and the weekends revolved around that community, the football club, and that's
extended family.
It absolutely is.
So good.
And to this day, people that we knew through that community are still part of my life. So, yeah.
Love it.
So obviously, like, you know, Jacqui, we've known each other a long time, and, you know, back at your days at the Y, and, you know, you're obviously an inspirational figure to a lot of people. You know, with your work with young people, what's something that, you know, what's been a lesson for you? What's been something you want to share today just about being around young people, and, yeah, something that you'd like to share?
I think once I became a parent, and you start to connect with younger people. Again, when I was at the YMCA, we had a gymnastics program there with 1,000 gymnasts, and I overseen that program. And
1,000?
Yeah, we had 1,000 kids coming in every week.
She was busy
doing gymnastics, and part of that was recreational and the other part was competitive. And so didn't matter whether it was recreational or competitive, I just liked the kids coming to a place that was outside of school, that they could build their confidence, that they could meet other people, and it was an inclusive environment. So, and to see kids grow and shine through that process and the smiles on their faces, and to be accepted somewhere, because there's a lot of judgment on kids today in schools and at home, even in families. So just to get them to come there and just to be the best version of themselves. So that's probably where it started. I started to understand the impact that I could have in helping kids grow. And I have some children who are neurodivergent children, and sometimes it's hard for them in life. So making kids of all types be able to feel inclusive and not to be judged for who they are, just to enjoy what they're doing.
Would you say that you've got a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit as well?
Look, I would say no, but yes, I think I do. Yeah, so I guess it's just something that comes natural to me without me even realising. When you go in, and I am competitive. Not that people would think that, but I just like to make things the best version they can be. So that's people, that's businesses, that's the bottom line. You know, it's kind of, so I do like to, if I see something that might be small, I like to grow it, whether that be a person or a business. And so, yeah, I guess in that version.
Yeah. So what was the initial inspiration behind the Special to Me events?
I guess it was that I wanted to be able to go into a business and treat it like my own, and that it was special. Their business was special to me. Right. So it was going in there and treating it like my own, which I do. When I get connected to a business, I like to go in there and make it the best version of itself. And I find that when you're passionate about it and you grow the people around you that are in that, the bottom line just comes. So
it's funny, passion's a little bit like smiling, isn't it? That it is contagious, that you do get in there and you've got that inspiration and that energy and all of a sudden you've managed to create, I guess, a little community.
I still have staff that worked for me 20 years ago that still contact me to ask me to be a reference check, or still reach out to me and may have something going on at work that they want to bounce ideas off me. I don't think much of it, but I do love that they know that they can still reach out to me and that I can still help them in some sense with making them grow and develop or be the best version of themselves.
It's something I think you could be very proud of. Like that just shows the impact that you've had on that person for in 20 years' time. They still look you up and still think highly of you.
Look, it does warm my heart. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that I was proud of it, but I do. It does make me feel nice that they still feel comfortable to reach out to me and that I can still help them. So, yeah.
So you've obviously achieved a lot, and you've obviously, done a lot of things across multiple industries. How do you sort of stay grounded with that? How do you sort of keep focused on the next thing, and how do you juggle those balls in the air, so to speak?
Look, I think it's probably just my makeup, my DNA of who I am. I do get bored easy. So I think what happens is that I always need to be growing and moving and what can we do next to make it better. So, yeah, it's just I can't sit still. So I think people like that, you just always...
Can I jump in on that? So does that mean is it fair to say you like looking for the next challenge?
Yeah, always. Awesome. And that can be in the business that I'm working in. It doesn't mean that I'm looking for a new business. It's just like what can the next challenge be? How can we make this bigger and better? It's just how I'm wired, I guess.
I have to ask. So if you can't sit still, have you transferred any of that energy into your children? Do you think?
Yes. Yeah, I have. I have. And I pay the price. Yeah. So look, they are busy. We just got back from a trip from Bali, and the week that we were over there, we were busy the whole time. So, but also in my children, I have two of my boys are heavily involved in basketball, and one of them now coaches, and he's got a bit of a community heart, and he's well respected in the basketball community as well. So, yeah, I think, it does spiral down to my children as well. So, yeah.
Good.
Just still on that point, because I think that there's a lot of people in today's society that can't sit still. And you just mentioned that, the boys play basketball, but just how important sport is and keeping them physically active and also keeping their minds occupied when you do have issues with sitting still.
For my kids, team sport has always been a non-negotiable. And you have those parents that push their kids into do it and they don't want to do it. But what I did with them is one of them played soccer and loved it, and then the other one I kept making him play soccer, and then he wanted to play basketball. And the first time he played, he was like a giant baby giraffe on the court. I was terrible. And then he ended up going on and doing quite well at basketball and ended up playing rep basketball. And so you've got to let them do what they want to do. what sport they want to play, but it's important that you get them active because now there's too much technology for them to not be active, and so I think it's important to keep them active in some way. That's fun for them.
Yeah. Can you tell us about a time when things didn't go to plan, and how did you find the resilience to get through that?
I guess at one stage, the last year, my son was able to play rep basketball because he's aged out now, and he didn't get selected for rep because the season before he got selected, but he was saving for a car and he had to juggle school, work and rep basketball, and rep basketball is a big commitment. So we decided that we would say no thank you. And so then he decided, because he'd saved the money for the car, he's decided this was his last time to play rep basketball, so he went and he didn't get selected. And normally I can make things happen, but I couldn't make that happen for him. So I couldn't change that. And so the last time he played rep under 14s, under 16s, got selected for under 18s, and we declined that. And then when he was top age, he didn't get accepted. That I really struggled with that, and I felt like that was my fault a little bit because I had encouraged him that he needed to save for his car and that he needed to focus on school and work. So that was tough, and I couldn't change that. So that was hard, and that was probably a decision that I made, thinking I was making the right decision for him on focusing on financial, what's involved in becoming an adult with financially looking after yourself, and so that was probably a bit of a tough call.
How did he take it?
Probably better than me, actually. Yeah. So he was disappointed initially, and then he was like, okay, well, I'll just keep working and get a better car. And so, he probably got over it. Like I still think about it to this day. Yeah. So he probably
I think that's what's most important, isn't it? That it's being able to, a situation happens that you don't have any control over, and you can't, there's no point sitting around, the milk's been spilt. And so it's pleasing to see that he's actually got that resilience and he just moves on.
Well, hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast because he probably doesn't know that I still think about that. So, yeah, he didn't know that. I just helped him to go, oh, well, let's just keep going. So, but...
Oh, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that leads into the next question. So you obviously, have heart and empathy as a big part of your life, but obviously with, the businesses that you work with and everything that you do in your life, you obviously think a lot about strategy. So how do you manage the empathy and the heart side of yourself with the strategy part of yourself? How do you balance that?
Yeah, look, it can be hard sometimes, and especially in businesses when you get to build relationships with people, sometimes the strategy of the business is going to impact where that person may want to go or what they want to do. But I think if you build the relationships with the people, you can have those honest conversations with them and help them to understand what's the next best thing for them. I had a staff member once in my previous life. I worked with Medibank Private, and this is one of the people that still keeps in touch with me, but she was a high performer, and she wasn't happy with the non-recognition she was getting from up above, and I ended up talking her into looking for another job because it was in her best interest, and it was probably in the best interest of the company because she wasn't doing the results that she needed to do. And she still talks about me having that conversation, and she went into a new career in jewellery insurance and said it was the best thing that she ever did. So again, it's about sometimes making those tough decisions for the business. That's the best decision for the business and can be the best decision for the person. They just don't realise it at the time until later.
What keeps you motivated? Like when you go into a business, and particularly I think in the beginning, it must be a little bit tough. And is it working? And there's no visible signs. How do you keep going?
I just break it down into small chunks. So I don't focus on the big picture at the end. I just do little goals each time, and then I focus on those little successes as you go along. And those little successes can be really small, maybe not so relevant successes, but you've just got to focus on that. And I've been lucky to have a lot of mentors in my lifetime in my career who have helped me along the way to understand that Rome wasn't built in a day. Someone once said to me, a Toyota's built in 13 hours and a Rolls Royce is in 6 months. And I can't tell you how many times I've used that saying because it's so true. You know, quality is more and not perfection, but, you know, making something so that it's superior is probably better than just a quick fix. Not saying that Toyota's a quick fix, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'm intrigued because I think there's a really good principle in there that when you do build those little building blocks and you're taking those little wins, that's building momentum.
Yeah.
And that's also obviously assisting when you're building that community, that people are starting to see, hey, we're celebrating, we're having these few wins, we're getting there, getting there, and not getting, like you said, too caught up about the fact, we haven't reached our ultimate goal yet. So
yeah, I remember doing an event at the YMCA and it was a food fiesta, and the YMCA was the one that I worked at was tired and old, and a lot of people weren't coming to the centre anymore, and we had a food fiesta. We had 40 trucks come, and you know, and the staff didn't believe in it, and it was kind of like that Kevin Costner movie Catch of Dreams or something, where if you build it, they will come. And that's what I kept saying to all the staff. We're building it and they're going to come. And so on the night, the highlight for me wasn't all the people that did come and all the money that we raised. It was the belief in the staff's faces when they seen all the people there and they seen their centre shine again with all the beautiful fairy lights and all the people. So, it's I guess it's also to breaking those goals down with your people, with your community, and getting them to believe in those short-term goals, not giving them the long, big goal because that might take a couple of years to achieve. You've got to break it down and celebrate the wins along the way.
So true.
That's on the back of that, this is the perfect time to ask this question. What's one thing you thought you hope people can understand about working with community-based organisations? What's one thing, if they're listening to this podcast, you'd like them to take away?
Community-based organisations don't have a lot of money. It's about the community supporting the community. So I guess it's it's having people who are doing it for the greater good and not for what they can get out of it, I think is the purpose, you know. And there are still a lot of people out there that want to do good things to make them feel good, not because they're going to be financially rewarded for it or they're going to get something out of it other than walking away going, you know what, that felt good. I made a difference today. I helped out. Yeah.
What's success look like for you and how do you measure it?
Well, success for me is that the people around me who are working with me or I'm working with them, that they're coming to work or they're coming to the community with purpose, and they're believing in the common goal, the culture, you know, what we're there to achieve, that they all believe in it. That's probably success for me. Yeah. And then if we're talking about businesses, the icing on the top of the cake for me is the bottom line. So if the bottom line is successful, then that's the cream at the top. That's not what I focus on. I focus on making the cake, but the icing on the cake is that the bottom line is successful, which it will be if you build that community, build that culture.
Well said. So if you could write a message on a billboard for your kids to see, for anyone to see, what would it say?
Look, I'm sure you want me to say something really amazing here, but I've thought about it and it's just be kind. I know that's simple.
I think that's pretty amazing though.
I think just if we could just be kind to one another, then, you know, the world will be okay. Yeah, I said.
And it's such a simple thing. Yeah. I was going through this with some kids yesterday, and I said, "What can you give?" and they give me a little bit of a blank look, and you can give a compliment.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't cost you anything,
Yeah.
or give some encouragement. And it's a little simple thing. And like you said, just being kind, it's not that hard.
Sometimes when I'm out in the shop, someone might come up to me and say, oh, I like your dress. And I'm like, I walk away on a high. I'm like, this is in a supermarket, and that has happened to me. Yep. And I find myself doing the same thing. If I like someone's nails or I like their hairdo, I just tell them. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I just think, so be kind.
Yeah. Fantastic.
What advice would you give someone who has a heart for impact but doesn't know where to start?
I think just follow your heart, because I think if you've got a heart for impact, you've just got to follow it. You just got to go with your gut and go and just follow your heart. Like, I know sometimes you've got your heart in your head, and sometimes you've got to ignore your heart. But if you've got a heart with impact, then just follow your heart, and it'll come. It's just it's natural if it comes from your heart. I'm
such a true believer in that, and this is one of my brands, and it's spirit, mind, body. And people said, "Oh, you got that around the wrong way. It's got to be mind, body, spirit." And I said, "No, it needs to be spirit led. So lead with your heart, manage with your mind, and move your body."
Absolutely.
So very, very well said.
Yeah.
Now, what haven't we talked about that we should have talked about?
Just trying to think what I've got. I got one more question I'd like to ask you today, Jacqui.
Yeah.
For anyone who's out there, you know, or maybe the 18-year-old you, or anyone who's looking for advice, they're feeling passionate, they're feeling inspired by this podcast. What would be one thing that you would like them to take on board for their life? Just one thing that you could say, you know, even if you went back to the 18-year-old you, piece of advice you'd give yourself.
I'd love to go back to the 18-year-old me. I think the 18-year-old me, I would say, is just follow your heart, and don't focus on getting the mortgage, you know, having to be in a career. Focus on doing what makes you happy, because what happens this is how I got to where I am. I did what made me happy, and I enjoy doing what I'm doing, and I'm helping people. And so just do what makes you happy. Don't focus on having to be at a certain destination. You have to have goals. I do believe in goals, but those goals can change along the way. Yeah. They don't have to be, they can change as you grow and develop. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Quick fire question time, Jacqui. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Coffee or herbal tea?
Oh, not coffee, herbal tea.
Just came back from Bali. Good answer. Favourite way to unwind after you've done a big event?
Yeah, so when I've done a big event, it's not just the 12 or 14-hour day, it's the months leading up to it. I like to have a long shower, and I like to crawl up in my comfy bed and watch some trashy show on Netflix.
What's a quote that you live by?
Probably the Toyota and the Rolls Royce are probably my quote that I do try and remind myself of.
And what's the biggest lesson you've learned in the past year?
Funny thing is that the older I get, the more I seem to do. You know how you think you're going to slow down as you get older? I'm the opposite. I only said to my husband just before we went to Bali, I'm getting older, and a lot of people are thinking about semi-retirement at my age, but I'm just getting busier and I guess thriving on that a little bit. So, yeah.
So if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
Look, I don't want to sound like Doris Day, which some people might not even know who that is, but I'd love to be working over in countries like Indonesia, Bali and those kind of things, and, you know, helping educate them on, you know, not looking after their children, because they look after them, but just being able to assist them and give them more than what they've got, like going into third world countries, and just being able to assist them with the day-to-day hygiene and feeding their families and doing what I can to help them.
Almost leads into the next question. A cause or an issue that's close to your heart?
Well, it's actually not probably related to that. Probably a cause that's close to my heart that Ben will know from the YMCA is cancer. So I lost my mum to cancer 8 years ago this October, and when I was at the Y, we had a cancer survivor program there, which was we provided health and fitness for people going through cancer or those that had survived. And I really got a lot of enjoyment out of that, and did a cancer survivor gala ball to raise money, and watched a lot of people that we helped through that program. So cancer affects all of us, and so that's probably a cause that I'm pretty passionate about as well.
One thing most people don't know about you.
I'm a bit of an introvert.
The most inspiring person you've ever met.
Well, I've met a lot of great mentors along the way, but I'd have to say I am who I am today because of my mum, so she's probably the most inspiring person.
What book or movie has changed your perspective?
Just recently, and I know it's a bit of a crowd favourite, but Let Them by Mel Robbins. That's just an awesome book and awesome life lessons in that.
What's your superpower in one word?
Passion.
And what's a mistake that you were glad you made?
I don't think any. I'm glad I made all the mistakes because I don't look at them as mistakes. They're all just learning for the next step. So no, mistakes don't bother me.
All right, final question. Finish this sentence. Founders are?
Founders are... I don't know. I did think about this, and now I can't think because I did have a good one for it, and now I can't think.
What do founders need to be? What's the one attribute you need to be a good founder, do you think?
Founders need to be passionate and go-getters. Like they need to believe. Founders need to have belief.
Yep.
Yeah.
What a great way to finish. Thank you so much for insight, Jacqui. It's been an awesome chat.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
Wonderful
coming.
to be here. Thank you.